Good evening, Scouts. I'm Scoutmaster Cole, and I'm sitting out here with my oldest son, David. We're going to go over some different fire-making techniques. Last time I did a video, we talked about how to start a fire with a ferro rod. And unfortunately, in that video, I forgot to cover fire safety, and I forgot to cover how to get a fire to continue burning. Once you have that little fire going, we need to discuss how to get the fire actually into a good fire. That is called a fire light. So, you want to say hello?
Ahoy! I am David Cole. I will be your video editor and my father's assistant.
Alright, so since we already covered how to get a fire going with the ferro rod, I'm going to pretend that this here is our fire, the little bitty fire that we started. So for all the different situations, where you see this break will be where the fire starts going. So, okay. David, do you know what are the three main types of fire building?
First is the log cabin. It's more of a square-shaped, log-like thing. And then second is a teepee, which normally has this up to stick in the middle or something to hold it up. Okay. The third one, I honestly don't remember.
Third one is called the lean-to. The lean-to is very much like a lean-to in the woods. If you were to spend the night in the woods, one way that you could survive would be to find something sticking up, like a tree branch, but you'd be better off finding a fallen tree, and then you could put a tarp alongside of it, and you would lay down under the tarp, and that would be your shelter for the night. That is a lean-to. When we're doing fire making, it's very similar. So David, can you demonstrate what is the log cabin? Now remember, this is our fire, so try to build it around our fire. All the wood is at my feet here.
Let's see here. We've got plenty and plenty of sticks.
Yes, we do.
And I already dropped them.
And you're dropping.
Yep, I dropped him off the ground. So log cabin is a very weird shaped structure because it usually consists of a first two by side and then two on the next side. Basically, if you can understand me. That's not very
Let's break this one in half. This one is way too long.
It's basically like this, honestly.
Oh, you didn't go this one. It's just that.
I wasn't... Yeah, okay. What? Sorry about that one. I kind of had to snap one. It might have sounded weird
quite all right.
for you.
Quite all right. Okay. Do you know what the advantage of a log cabin is? Go ahead and have a seat.
I think. I cannot prove this theory.
Okay.
But I think it's more of a wind shelter to block off windy tides that might try to blow out the fire.
That's true. When you are building a fire, if you build a log cabin, the wind that comes in from the sides will be cut down. It won't be completely shut off, but it'll be cut down by the different pieces of wood. And so the air will, instead of coming in solid force, will be split apart and will come in separately like that. All right?
Makes it last longer in a windy situation.
That's right, it does. That is the log cabin. What can you show me for the teepee? Again, this is our fire.
But teepee is a little more difficult. I usually...
You're too tall for the camera. There you go.
I usually have a mistake when doing this. But it's more or less a... This is too long.
Try to get the sticks about the same length.
There we go. It's more or less a triangle, but put at all sides.
Okay, I will hold this while you get the next stick.
Thank you. Thank you very much. No, new stick. New stick.
Okay. Now, we're doing this on the edge of our fire pit, so we don't have a lot of room here. If we did, it would be more spread out. We could use longer sticks and so forth. But what we have here is, you've probably heard about the Indian or the Native American teepees, which are the shelter that they would build with sticks, and it was very much of a cone shape, and then they'd wrap it with animal hides. That is the next fire making technique, where your fire, as it burns, will spread up the poles, and I just knocked it over. Your fire, as it burns, will spread up the poles and will cause the higher poles to catch fire. And that will, it'll feed itself that way, and will give it the ability to continue. Thank you, David. Do you remember our third type?
Yeah, you called it something?
The lean-to.
The lean-to. I've heard you mention it. I could probably do it. I don't know.
I put this piece of wood here. This would not be there. It'd just be ground.
And I think you would do
David, do it the other way. From this side forward so the camera sees it.
I think you would basically do a more fallen stick structure to make your wall of protection.
Well, when we're talking about a fire, it's not really a wall of protection, is it?
No, it's a wall of flammable.
Yes, it's a wall of flammable materials.
It's a wall of a pyromaniac.
That's one way of putting it.
That's our joke.
All right. What is
happen?
the advantage of a lean-to? Do you know? Why would we do a lean-to?
It's possible it could also be a protection against the wind.
How is that?
If you really think about it, well, wind brushes against up this side, but you kind of have the advantage because it goes upwards, up the angle.
I don't think that's true. Because just like with the log cabin, the wind will just split apart and will go between the branches. So I don't think that's going to help you very much from that side. What about from this side?
I never thought about that.
We have a big piece of wood here. And this big piece of wood, if the wind is coming this way, the wind will hit this big piece of wood and will redirect, but it will not be able to get to our fire itself. That is one of the big advantages of the lean-to type structure or the lean-to type fire making. When you are camping, if you are trying to camp in the bush, if you're trying to camp with a tarp and a fallen tree, the lean-to does the same thing. But you would also have a tarp on this side, so you would be blocked from the wind from either side. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right. Now, when and where do we build a fire? Is it safe to just, automatically build a fire? No biggie.
No.
We're in camp. Just light her up and see what happens.
Not unless you want to try Smokey the Bear.
Yeah.
Because Smokey doesn't like it when you leave fire like that. He will come at you howling angry.
Okay. Okay, so when can you light a fire safely?
In an area where there's not too much wood or flammables around, as well as not too windy, you can do that.
Okay, so two things you said was there aren't a lot of flammables around. How close do you mean? How big or how far does everything have to be away from the fire?
I don't know how to say distance. How
It's
am I gonna tell
advised to
this?
be at least 6 feet. That is the general advisory, that you want things to be away from the fire in order to keep embers and sparks from coming off the fire and landing on them and causing fires outside of your fire pit.
Otherwise, you will have smoke in the air.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. Okay, so what? Let me see. We covered the if the wood is too close. What about if it's too windy? What happens when it's too windy?
Well, wind has a tendency to rush the fire out any general direction. And this actually spreads how close it gets to those flammable objects and things, which can cause a bigger fire danger, meaning you're going to want things far away or something could happen.
Okay. So the wind will come along and will hit the fire, and the sparks that as I spoke about earlier, will pick up and then will travel further because of the wind.
Yep,
Sparks are a big issue, aren't they?
they are actually.
Yeah. Okay. What else do we need to watch out for when we're making a fire? How close can trees be?
They gotta be pretty far as well. Any area like a forest does have a tendency to have a lot of trees and leaves. Most things can fall if it were like April, something like that.
Well,
And-
in the fall, leaves fall.
Yeah, you got my point.
April isn't the fall, but okay. What about low-lying branches? So you go walking through the forest, you find a nice spot, you set up your fire ring, which we'll talk about in just a minute. Once you've got your fire ring, you light your fire in it, and there's a branch right here. Is that okay?
No, that is not a good thing.
That is not a good thing. How far off the ground do you want the branches? Do you know?
I actually do not know.
You want them head height for the adults. Roughly 5-6 feet, at minimum. You don't want them any closer to the fire, and the higher the better. Because what happens is heat automatically rises. And as the heat rises, that branch will heat up. If the branch is too close, it could heat up to the point where it will ignite, combust. Exactly. And that'll cause your tree to burn down. That could light your forest on fire. It'll cause a bad day for everyone.
I'm weird.
Okay. How do we set up a fire ring?
A fire ring is usually made out of a ton of rocks in a shape of a circle.
Yes.
And that's to control it from going too far.
Here we're sitting in front of my permanent fire ring, which is made of bricks in a big circle. And at the very bottom of it, I have sand.
As was an outer ring.
Yes. It's got a metal ring to keep the heat from transferring too much onto the bricks. Now, in the woods, you're not going to have all the bricks and sand and all the fancy things. You have to deal with what you have. So, one of the best things you can do, if you're in an environment where you are able to do this, mind you, is you dig down into the ground about 3 inches. Then you place the bricks around it. And you got the dirt out of the way, you place your rocks, and you start your fire in there. We dig down into the ground for several reasons. The ground, the deeper you go, the more moist it typically is. Also, you don't want there to be any evidence of there being a fire there when you leave. It's part of our leave no trace as a Boy Scout. We don't want to be leaving traces of a fire everywhere we go.
You don't want to leave your trash either.
That's right. These things would be very unkind, and they're not very scout-like, are they?
No.
So, when we build a fire ring, At minimum, you have to have the rocks around. The best thing you can do is to dig down a little bit. Now, you do have to make sure you're far enough away from trees because you don't want the tree roots to be within a couple of inches of where your fire is going. Because the ground can also radiate heat. And if the ground is radiating heat, the tree roots under the ground can ignite or can smolder. And if this happens, that can cause a fire as well.
Kind of like what you expect if things were raking relation. It travels across area kind of interesting way, and that could do that basically what we got just explained here.
So these are all things that we do to try to be careful with fire. Now, how do we put out a fire? Once we've made the fire, and the fire is just the very bed of coals, and we've had a wonderful night, and maybe we've told stories, sung songs, whatever, now what?
You're gonna want water near you, and you can use that water to dump on a fire, or you could add sand and dirt to kill its ability to smolder.
Yes. You're going to want a shovel, or at minimum a hand trowel, and you're going to dump water. Actually, you could also use a stick. And then you're going to dump water on the fire, on the remaining coals. And they sizzle and they blow all the steam. That's great. Once you've done that, you're going to use your shovel, your trowel, even your stick, and you're going to mix it like you're mixing a big bowl. Because you want all of the coals to get to that water. You want water on all the coals. You want everything completely out. Now, if you are done camping, next day you're going home, you would then disperse the rocks, move them from here to back to roughly where they started, and then you would rebury your hole and try to make it look as close as you could like nobody was there.
Like nothing ever happened.
That's right. If you were there for another night, you can just leave it, as long as it is safe and as long as it is out. Anything else you want to talk about?
Not really, honestly. I wasn't playing this whole thing myself.
That's quite all right. Now, we have covered the 3 different types of fire lay. What were those 3 types again?
Firelight?
The 3 different types of building a fire.
Okay. So the log cabin.
Log cabin, which is the branches that cross, yes.
The Indian hut.
Otherwise known as a teepee.
Teepee. I still don't remember his name.
Lean-to.
Lean-to.
Those are the 3 main types of building a fire. They all have advantages and disadvantages. As you saw tonight, we were having difficulty building and getting to a log cabin to stay standing up. That is one of the disadvantages to a log cabin, or to a teepee. So we were having difficulty building and getting a teepee to stand up because it kept falling over. That is one of the main disadvantages for a teepee.
It's kind of a cylinder. A cone. A cylinder cone.
Cone. Yes. Now, the log cabin is one of the more sturdy structures, and as you build it up, once you get to a good height, you can put smaller pieces of wood across the top, and they will catch fire as your little fire burns, and that will cause a good-sized fire. And then the lean-to. The lean-to is one of the best types if you're in a windy situation. Now, tonight we are under a red flag warning. A red flag warning is when it is too dry in the air and when it is too windy to have a fire going. Because of that, we can't demonstrate how to actually do these the fire techniques and build and light it.
Oh well.
Because of that, I didn't bother bringing out water. That is actually a mistake. Scouts should always have water on them, right? Do you remember what they always say at Gorham? Gorham Scout Ranch? Hydrate or...
Dihydrate.
Hydrate or dihydrate. What they mean is you have to keep drinking. You have to keep drinking. We are in the high desert here in Albuquerque. This is high desert environment.
Welcome to New Mexico.
That's right. We get snow during the winter. We get rain. We get all these things. But as the weather comes and goes, the air is a lot drier typically than it is in California or in New York, that kind of thing. Because of that, the air naturally sucks the moisture off of our bodies and out of our bodies. And so we tend to be drier. The air tends to be drier, and we ourselves tend to be drier. That is both good and bad. If you're really sweaty, it helps you cool down, yes. But at the same time, your body sweats more because it dries off so quickly. And then you need to keep drinking. Yes. So it is very important that we are always drinking. It's very important that we always have water with us. If nothing else, it is one of the 10 essentials. Do you remember the 10 essentials?
Somewhat. I can't promise you I'm gonna know all of them.
That's okay. We will go over the 10 essentials in a later video. But right now, we just wanted to go over how to build a fire safely, mind you. We wanted to go over where to build a fire and when to build a fire. So what were our safety rules again? Don't build a fire.
Don't build a fire around the woods or anything flammable.
Right up against something flammable, yes. Don't build a fire
underneath the trees and branches.
Yes, under low-lying branches. What else?
And near roots.
That's right. Don't build a fire where the roots from the tree can ignite.
And don't build a fire if you don't have a thing to kill it, to turn it out.
This is true, and I didn't mention that. Don't build a fire if you don't have enough water or the ability to put it out. Also, don't build a fire when it's too windy. If you must build a fire for survival or for cooking your food, and it is really windy, you want to burrow into the ground, dig into the ground, build the fire, and keep it small. The bigger the fire is, the more likely you are to have the embers shooting off and going off when traveling with the wind. They say that in wildfires, with the wind driving the wildfire, embers that shoot off the fire can travel several miles and still cause more fires. So that's something to be aware of.
Run like the wind, bullseye.
Yes. So these are the kinds of situations that we have to be careful of as scouts. They're part of being good scouts, and they're part of taking care of our environment. The whole leave no trace. Try not to leave a trace of the fire when you're done, unless there's a permanent fire ring in that location. Often a campsite will have a permanent fire ring, and then it is safe to build a fire, typically. So you have to know your environment, know where you are, know whether or not there's a red flag warning or there are conditions that could cause fire damage, and be careful with your fire. What is it that a fire will do that can hurt you?
A fire can actually burn you.
That's right. So if I burned my hand, what do I do?
One, you're going to want to cool it out with a little bit of water, drains it.
Great. I got ice water in my ice chest. Let me dump some ice water on it. Is that safe? No. What water should you pour on it?
Specifically warm water.
Actually, room temperature or cool water?
I got close.
You were close, yes. But you want to pour cool water on it, and then what? Great, it's feeling a little better, but my hand's still got a big burn on it.
I think you have to cover it with a Band-Aid, or there's a thing of fake skin. No, that's for something else. Band-Aid.
Yes. You want to seal it with gauze, or if it's small enough that you can use a Band-Aid is good enough. Is there a lotion or something I can put on it to make it feel better? How about burn cream?
Is there such a thing?
There is such a thing. Burn cream you will probably find in your first aid kit, and it comes in these little packets, or for home use you can get big tubes of it, and you squeeze a little bit of it on there, and then you very gently, very carefully want to rub it so that the whole area is covered. Now it will hurt to rub it in. You also have to make sure your hands are clean to do this. You don't want to be rubbing more dirt into the wound now that you've finally rinsed it clean.
Because you honestly may understand this or not, but in all pimples and things like that can form, as well as the dirt and muck and stuff, your body's gonna try to push out.
That's right, and what it means for your body to be pushing it out is an infection. That is when you've got white blood cells that are attacking something, and there's tons of them dying, and so you get this white pus, which is that pus. Now, doctors have told me before that a burn is a large open wound, just like a cut.
Which makes me even more vulnerable.
That's right. So when you have a large open wound, a burn, or whatever, you need to be very careful with that area and treat it like a cut. Leave it, clean it carefully, clean your hands before taking care of it, wash it as best you can, put burn cream on it and seal it with a bandage, a Band-Aid, some gauze and tape, whatever you have available.
Even a plastic bag can work if you can pressurize it onto the thing.
That's going to hurt a lot. I wouldn't put a plastic bag on a burn.
Okay, never mind.
But I would take a paper towel and a little bit of duct tape. And you can fold up the paper towel, put it on the wound, and then duct tape it in place. That would be a good alternative if you don't have enough gauze, or if you don't have bandages that are big enough, or whatever. It all depends on the type of first aid kit you have and how much is in it. Some first aid kits have less supplies than others. So, okay, we have covered where to put a fire, how to build a fire, what to do if you get burned by the fire, and how to be safe around the fire. And then how did we put out the fire again?
Bucket of water.
Bucket of water.
Maybe a little bit of sand or dirt.
Yes. Bucket of water and dirt or sand that is the just room temperature. That works well also. And then what?
Yeah, clean it up.
You dump them on the coals, and then you stir it. You stir it like you're stirring a big pot. That way you can make sure all of the coals are put out and safe. Once you've done that, if you are going home, go ahead and take your stool.
Sorry to interrupt.
Once you've done that, if you're just going home, you can just seal it up again with your dirt that you had set aside, and try to make it look nice. Or if you're going to be there an extra day, you can just let it sit until the next night's fire. Okay? That is how, when, and where to light a fire. As always, try to be careful, listen to your scoutmasters, and make sure that you are being safe in the outside, in the outdoors. Have a great day.
Also, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment down below.
That's true. This channel is not, I'm not making any money off of this. I'm actually doing this trying to help out some scouts of mine who are having difficulty right now because of an illness that is going around. We're not really allowed to get outside of the house.
COVID-19.
Yep. Because of this, we are in my backyard, and we're going over scout skills. As always, I am Scoutmaster Cole. I am one of the assistant scoutmasters with Boy Scouts Troop 1 here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Have a great day. Okay.
First times for everything.